In what ways does the second round of talks in Rome differ from previous negotiations?
Peace be upon you. Greetings to you and all the viewers. Both rounds are distinguished by the both parties talking under in a positive atmosphere without any negative factors. There was a rumor that Iran withdrew in objection to some circumstances, and this was refuted today. So far, the talks are relatively positive. However, this doesn't necessarily mean that we're optimistic, because the essential issues are not being discussed yet. Will the Iranian nuclear program be dismantled, or are they going to only reduce the uranium usage? And also the ballistic missiles issues, which is a very significant issue, is not being discussed yet. Also the Iranian arms in the region. All of these essential points must be discussed and raised on the negotiation tables, as well as the US sanctions on Iran. These are the essential matters that should be up for discussions, and that's how we're going to judge these negotiations, successful or not.
But sir, ever since the beginning, Iran has emphasized that these talks are indirect. But following this second round of negotiations, is there a possibility that this round of talks could evolve into direct negotiations, given the Iranian foreign minister's recent interaction with US envoy Steve Witkoff?
I doubt that the negotiations was actually in an indirect. There is evidence that the Iranian Minister of Foreign Affairs shook hands with Steve Witkoff as a diplomatic protocol, but some international media platforms said that the bilateral session took 45 minutes. So I don't think discussing with direct or indirect the negotiation is. The moment Iran agreed to negotiations with the United States, it was direct on or indirect. It was talks and negotiations. So in my opinion, there is already direct negotiations.
Mm-hmm. With the United States still exerting pressure that it could impose military action, and this option remains on the table if these negotiations fail, in light of this, how feasible is Iran's request for assurances that the US won't abandon a future agreement?
On this point, it's a realistic demand by Iran, because there was an agreement in 2015 with the Obama administration. Trump, during his first term, cancelled this agreement and imposed what has been called the strongest sanctions, the maximum sanctions. So naturally, Iran would demand guarantees now, so that Trump doesn't revoke the agreement once again, or any other future presidents do the same. They are not looking for any economic temptations against and comparing them against military threats. Trump sent a message to the Iranian president to reach an agreement in 2 months, or there will be military actions. And Trump rejected an Israeli demand to wage an attack on Iranian facilities. Now Trump is avoiding the military action choice, and he's giving a chance to the diplomatic negotiations. Talking about alleviating the sanctions and signing an agreement is now an option. And there was also today that we have seen Israel is considering a military action against Iran next May, and this can be read as a negotiation card for the US in the ongoing negotiations, or the US leaked this news not to ruin Israel's plans.
Mhm. Now, sir, in light of the internal political dynamics in both Iran and the United States, to what extent are they influencing their negotiation positions?
Apparently, that each of these countries, whether Iran or the US, has hopes and aspirations. Trump wants to to solve all the political tensions so that he can focus on the economy and facing China. It is one of the goals of negotiating with Iran to isolate Iran from China. Iran here is an integral point in the region for China, is a very important part of the Silk Road, and consequently it will be a factor of stability if an agreement is reached in the Middle East and the Gulf area, and it will also affect the Islamic Iranian, the Arab Iranian relations. Iran has a very dire economic situation and a weakness point after the strikes in Yemen, Lebanon, and Syria. They're feeling that their influence is declining. So Israel now is a very good condition to direct a strike to Iran, and for all of these reasons, Iran and the US both wanted to reach an agreement, but the question remains, what kind of an agreement will be signed?
Now, sir, with both parties agreeing for a third round of negotiations, what are your expectations regarding this upcoming round?
If things go as planned, I expect positive outcomes, but there is a factor here that might affect the negotiations, which is Israel. We are well aware that the Israeli leaders wanted to direct a joint strike to the Iranian nuclear program. Israel does not want any relations or agreements between the US and Iran, especially that they indicated that the United States and Steve Witkoff said that the United States might accept the nuclear program under certain conditions. These things bother Israel, and these are bad news for Israel. And if an agreement is reached without the satisfaction of Israel, as Israel wants to end any nuclear presence in Iran, this will be a very bad hit to Netanyahu and for the Israeli public opinion. I think Israel is trying to undermine these negotiations with all means possible so that they can direct a military hit to Iran in partnership with the United States.